A student fights for his life after a brutal confrontation. Tedi Mining to scale down operations due to low water levels. And PNG Power workers call for removal of executive director.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
A very good evening and welcome to another working week. A student from Salvation Army Secondary School is fighting for his life at the Port Moresby General Hospital Intensive Care Unit after being brutally bashed by soldiers from Murray Barracks. The incident happened on Saturday during the Killa Killa Secondary Cultural Show at Coronation Primary School in Baroko. The victim was part of the East Sepik Provincial Cultural Group who were physically assaulted by the soldiers.
On life support and in a coma, Jeremiah Yinu has been in this state for the past 2 days at the Port Moresby General Hospital Intensive Care Unit. He was part of the East Sepik Provincial Cultural Group who were physically and verbally assaulted by soldiers from Murray Barracks on Saturday. According to the president of the East Sepik students attending Killa Killa Secondary School, there was a confrontation with soldiers while they were on their way to the cultural show.
So blamipla so low way blam go selo so go selo manuway go se foodland kamoselo 5 mile Jack Park time bla kanlap bin kam bla car bin kam side lom plan min speed kam em talking bla pulgolo side so bin golo side mi plan no saw so emol soldia tu or ka approaching bla lom bla kain aresin mena mi plan no saw tu or kam paiti mi bla lap or tok lom bla we mi bin count on bla power bla emin trying lo kam approaching lom bla good bla mena we all tu no bin come lom bla good bla mena
we go find out so ogara boys all no stop time mol ko come up plus la stolem all find out some one bla mangem la kalap em fence stop this la boy time em climb go on top finish now all go em all pull em come down em no come down ne all hit him on the baseball bat lo side lo replay time all hit him le baseball bat em pura on face go on top stop em all put it blame time all put it blame em sing out one bla sing out em sing out mama time sing out em all just use your blind metolos message call blame.
This morning, the students received more threats from the soldiers and had to be released from school. They are concerned and in fear of their lives, calling on the military hierarchy to do something. Deputy Principal Administration, Killa Killa Secondary School, Philemon Gadilo, expressed disgust at the manner in which his students were treated by the soldiers.
What has happened, it has shocked many that have gathered to enjoy the culture show that was organized by the school. And we were all shocked to see what is commonly perceived as the disciplined forces showing indisciplined behavior. And what has happened, we would not want to see it happen again. And this is, it tarnishes the good name and the image of the disciplined force throughout Papua New Guinea.
As a concerned parent, Lester Mom wants these soldiers to be removed from the army and dealt with by the law.
Minister responsible to please look at I think 3 or 4 months we cannot allow them to run away. Every time we'll make him trouble, but run go back to barracks. Na carry mogora sole lo na fight him. Enough is enough. Please enough. Stop him now. This la work lo one so me as a concern when picking lo school lo kila am picking civic. Now this incident come me harap through run come because all the fight him civic somati na me come la looking. And I even went to Lomigo housing na milgo mangi all bagar am completely black out. Am no respond. Am stop lo coma now. No go dem bagar up. One of something back up. Am no metablo defense force na metablo police. It's a criminal offense. Am supposed to kill him na min die. But you talk one him. You this laman you making the trouble. Bito you sleep now. You burn up run away. I'm blowing you. I'm low and big blood to mass.
Police have been informed about the incident and are paying close attention to the condition of the victim before making arrest and laying formal charges on the suspects. Despite directives issued by the Commander Brigadier General Gilbert Toropo, soldiers continue to be involved in such brutal acts. This latest incident begs the question of whether the PNGDF will enforce the directive to remove ill-disciplined soldiers or continue to cover up for their actions. Mickey Cavera, National EMTV News.
Special mining lease landowner students and parents of Pagera are appealing to responsible agencies to release funds into the Pagera Children's Trust Fund to pay for outstanding school fees. Their appeal follows years of mismanagement of the trust fund, which is now affecting thousands of children from Pagera studying in the country and overseas.
The Pagera Children's Trust Fund was established back in 1995 after an agreement between the special mining lease landowners and the Pagera gold mine developers Berry Gold Limited. Out of that agreement, 8% of landowner loyalty was put into the trust fund as school fees subsidies for every child in the mining impact area of Enga province. In the years between 2005 and 2013, the trust fund was mismanaged. Berry Gold Limited, who is not a contributor to the trust fund but a signatory and one of the 6 trustees, has since refused to release funds into the trust account. The reasons being the recent mismanagement of funds and no proper audit in the trust fund. The mismanagement and refusal to release funds are now affecting thousands of school children in Pagera.
As a result, we see that other students are attending institutions, colleges, primary and secondary schools across all over the world have been kicked out by the teachers.
After the matter was taken to court in 2013, the National Court ordered the appointment of new trustees. It also ordered an independent financial audit. To date, nothing has been done as auditors are yet to obtain financial information and payment vouchers from former trustees. The 2013 academic year was paid in full and used last year. However, no funds were released this year. The trust funds covers 50% of school fee subsidies, while parents pay the other 50%. And with no available funds, parents are now burdened to pay in full, which most of them cannot afford, especially with their children attending tertiary institutions. While the National Court has also ordered for an annual general meeting for the trustees, nothing has happened. This has raised more concerns as parents are demanding answers to where the funds are and when they will be released. Stanley Over Jr., National EMTV News.
Tedi Mining Limited has announced plans to shut down the mine temporarily. In a media release issued today, the mine highlighted low water levels at the Fly River as the main reason for this drastic measure. The statement says that it has affected essential supplies such as food and fuel into the mine site. Electricity supply generated by the PNG Power Station, which is the main source of electricity for Tabubil and OTML operations, is also affected.
The statement says power rationing has already commenced in Tabubil and Kiunga. The mine will remain operational until essential supplies such as fuel and food run out. Other coping measure the company is taking is in downsizing its employee numbers. This will begin with what they call non-essential personnel and will continue until only a skeleton crew remains. They say this downsizing will affect 30% of expatriate staff and 15% of local staff. The Western Provincial Government and the PNG government budget depend heavily on the mine's dividends and the revenue from the taxes that it generates. Low water levels was one of the reasons for the company losing a significant amount of profit last year when they were only able to make $17 million compared to their 2012 profit of $472 million. In this statement, the company says the low water levels have affected the reliable shipping of copper to Port Moresby, which has created uncertainty around the mine's cash flow. The Western Provincial Governor arrived back from a trip to Fiji today, and his staff say his office will be commenting on this issue in the coming days. Due to the mine's significant contribution to the Western Province budget, OTML is in the process of working out an emergency response plan with the provincial administration. Apart from the media release, the company remains tight-lipped on any other information on this matter. Sarah Aupong, National EMTV News.
The termination of PNG Power's Executive Director, John Mangos, was amongst the list of demands presented to the PNG Power management by the PNG Energy Employees Association this morning. The union members gathered at the PNG Power headquarters here in Port Moresby and staged a sit-in protest which lasted the entire day today. Most of their grievances lean towards the removal of the Executive Director.
At 11 this morning, at least 200 employees of PNG Power gathered at their Hohola office to meet with both the PNG Power board and management. The meeting did not eventuate as expected, and only one petition was presented to the management.
We're not skeptic. We are focused as management to the evolving change that's around, and we'd like to take it on.
The demand to remove Mangos as executive director was based on the argument that he received over 2 million kina from his salary, including other privileges he is entitled to in a year, and that 2 million is sourced from PNG Power's in-house cash flow.
You're saying, Mangos, you get clear yourself, because this is our country. We have to treat our Papua New Guineans with respect, dignity. They will always be here. Putting out people without a job is already a problem in Papua, and we will not accept Mangos giving threats to the employees of PNG Power.
When asked on whether the 2 million kina claim was true, CEO John Tangit said he could not confirm or deny the claim. But at this moment, it remains a claim.
The claim can be true, but I don't want to see it as it's a claim that's realistic. So given the restructures that the company has gone through over the last I'd say 5-6 years ago, it's what we call a single line salary.
The sit-in protest has received support from Maritime Transportation Union and the National Airlines Employees Workers Association.
Management come and sit down there and iron these grievances out. It's as simple as that, and then don't go around passing the buck around and prolonging this issue, because when you prolong things, it becomes very emotional.
The petition that was supposed to be received by the PNG Power Board was held back by the union and will be presented to the Deputy Chairman, Larry Undergully, upon his arrival from Southern Highlands. The other demands include the fast-tracking of outstanding entitlements for retired PNG Power employees and for PNG Power to recruit employees based on merits. EMTV News understands that the sit-in protest will not affect the electricity supply into Port Moresby, but the failure of the board and management to meet the employees' demands could result in a nationwide strike. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Still to come on National EMTV News tonight, settlers here in Port Moresby face eviction. Also, road redevelopments take shape in Lake City, and peanut sellers from the Makam Valley. Stay with us for those stories and more. Welcome back. Settlers at Erakone here in Port Moresby face a possible eviction as early as next month. However, they are disputing the eviction, claiming that developer WKPNG Limited did not acquire the land through proper process. They are now calling on relevant authorities to step in to prevent them from being evicted.
The threat of eviction looms over this portion of land at Kone Dobu. In August 2012, WKPNG Limited acquired the land title to develop this land. But according to the landowners, it is still customary land, and they are surprised at how the developer acquired the title.
For a start, the developer didn't came the good way into grabbing the land, because I was very surprised when I saw the developer holding on to the title in the newspaper. And with the force into doing this, they came by force with the police. Not even finding the real proper area where the traditional owners were.
Caught in between are the settlers who have on several occasions been forced by the developer to vacate the land. But many of them have refused to leave, claiming the developer did not follow proper process. Their previous legal action against the developer has failed, but they have pursued the matter in court under human rights to stop the eviction.
Case last year, this eviction, which we engage Popano lawyers, na peli mibla, na deal with them lawyer company na tubla. Sim container which mibla no bing container longan
The settlers want relevant authorities such as the Lands Department to come clear on the status of this land before any eviction can take place. Mickey Cavera, National EMTV News.
Redevelopment of Lae roads in and around Lae City for the past 2 years is slowly taking shape. The new Lae 4th Street Road was opened today by Morobe Governor Kelly Naru. The newly repaired road leads to one of the city's tourism hub, the Lae International Hotel.
The 180 meters 4th Street Road at Lae's Top Town area costed the provincial administration 1.4 million kina for reconstruction work. Rebuilt within 6 weeks, the road leads to the Lae International Hotel that has been operating for the past 30 years. Morobe Governor Kelly Naru opened the newly repaired street this morning.
We saw that we need to eradicate this eyesore.
A contractor company in Lae carried out the maintenance work after it won the bid from Morobe's Provincial Supply Tenders Board to repair this road. The contractor was allocated 8 weeks to complete the road works, and despite Lae's changing wet weather patterns, maintenance was done within 6 weeks.
We actually contracted them to through the PSTV to do the road for a couple of months.
Though small, this project has shown the Morobe Provincial Administration is committed. Colin Barilai, National EMTV News, Lae.
A district authority in the Jiwaka province is supplying roofing iron to every family that will replace the kunai roof and a portable sawmill that will be used to cut timber to start building homes. It comes amidst a project to provide electricity to all ward councils in the district and improve road infrastructures around the North Wagi district. Defence Minister and North Wagi MP Dr. Fabian Pok says the projects are being done using DSIP funds.
In the next 6 months, much of the houses in the North Wagi district will be built using timber cut from walkabout sawmills. The district authority has also provided iron roofing. This was the launching of the Operation Rosim Kunai at the Barnes town on Saturday, where thousands turned out. The district authority also funding a hydro power plant and a rural electrification program.
When the people are happy, I'm very happy. And with the roofing iron program, even without the funding, these things are not possible. And words cannot express how I feel.
Nondagul, including all other parts of the district, are getting electricity. Road infrastructure are also being improved. Roads in Nondagul and Kimil are being improved. Those roads previously difficult to access have been opened. And there is a 15 million kina road construction in progress to link up Jiwaka to Medang's Ramu area.
The North Wagi District Authority is getting generous funding from the national government. Now, there has been increased amount of funding going into education, health, including school fee subsidies for university students overseas and within the country. Bethany Harriman, National EMTV News.
Well, over 2 decades ago, the Makam Valley was Papua New Guinea's peanuts capital. It was where peanuts and peanut butter was produced. Today, the industry is gone due to various factors, but the peanuts are still being sold in small volumes along the road.
Gone is the peanut butter production of the 80s and the 90s, but what's left is a small subsistence industry that is supporting communities in the upper reaches of the Leron River. Miring Ganare doesn't grow the peanuts himself, but buys from people who grow them. Transportation from upriver is difficult, so the guys here are at the retail end of the peanut sales.
And now all the talk on him, all the work him again, that's all. No come up.
The sale of peanuts gets very little recognition from government at the moment, but it serves as an important income source for students like Siri Thomas, who make an average of 100 kina every week.
Pinalin bakasari me mosemda nidim mani doksim bakasari no mosem sebi mosamba family bumda o mbo school mangitum bakam sarim no by mos school something bumda.
The group is now calling for government support in a small way. While major infrastructure like roads and bridges may take time to build, they're asking for advice on how to build small businesses that can enable a change in the quality of life. For now, trade between the upper reaches of the Leron and the people living along the bridge continues. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Ley.
And now we take a look at the finance news. The kina closed unchanged at $0.3615 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, our kina was trading at $0.354, $0.4833 Australian dollars, €0.3187 euro, and 43.42 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee and cocoa closed the day higher, while copper closed the day lower. Palm oil and copper closed lower as well, while crude oil closed the day higher. And lastly, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 163 points higher, the ASX closed at 25 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 24 points higher as well. You're watching National EMTV News tonight. Police Commissioner explains the warrant of arrest on Treasury Secretary Dari Vele. We'll bring you that story among others coming up after the break. Good to have you back with National EMTV News. Police Commissioner Gary Bucky has confirmed a warrant of arrest for Treasury Secretary Dari Vele. The warrant was obtained by the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption Directorate at the Waigani District Court last Wednesday. Secretary Vele was asked to answer to his alleged involvement in the release of funds for the purchase of 2 generators from Israel last year. Commissioner Bucky also said he was not happy the warrant was issued without his approval.
The warrant of arrest for Secretary Dari Vele was obtained last Wednesday by members of the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption Directorate in Port Moresby. Secretary Vele was warranted to explain to the courts his involvement in the release of funds to an Israeli company for the purchase of 2 turbine generators last year. The 2 generators are now used by PNG Power, one in Port Moresby and the other in Ley. Commissioner Bucky today confirmed the issuance of the warrant of arrest, however, was disappointed with members of the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption Directorate for not advising him prior to obtaining the warrant. Bucky said he learned of the arrest warrant on Facebook last Saturday, 2 days after the warrant was issued.
As Commissioner of Police, I was not provided a brief on this case until the matter was published in the Facebook that has brought my attention on Saturday, July 25th. Upon which, receiving the confirmation on the case, I directed and received a briefing from the Director of the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption, Chief Superintendent David Damaru, 11:15 on Saturday evening.
Yesterday, Bucky ordered the warrant of arrest to be executed immediately for Secretary Vele to answer for his charges. In a media conference today, an irritated Commissioner Bucky strongly objected to the manner in which he was sidelined and not given approval for the arrest warrant to be issued.
As Commissioner of Police, I'm charged with the superintendents of the police force, the RPNGC, and in an established hierarchical structure, there are established protocol in practice and in place. And especially when dealing with leaders of high-profile people, this is a serious breach of discipline, and it amounts to insubordination. In fact, they are treating the office of the Commissioner with contempt. And why I wasn't briefed prior to the securing of the arrest warrant?
Commissioner Baki has issued directives for Acting Deputy Commissioner Rafael Aufolo to lead a high-profile investigation into the past, present and pending investigations in the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption Directorate.
This direction is in view of the fact that there is strong perception that the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption has been heavily politicized and influenced and is not impartial in all matters currently under investigations.
The Commissioner did not elaborate on the possible disciplinary actions they will impose on members of the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption Directorate who have failed to follow proper processes in advising the Commissioner before obtaining the warrant. Quinten Alom, National EMTV News.
The case against Works Minister Francis Awesa was dismissed by the Leadership Tribunal in Port Moresby this morning. The 4-month case saw its conclusion today when the tribunal found that the allegations did not have sufficient supporting evidence. The leader was brought to trial on grounds of misconduct in office. It was alleged that Mr. Awesa built a fence in his residential property in Port Moresby to serve his personal interest. Minister Awesa commended the country's judicial system but also criticized the concerned agencies for trying a trivial case which has cost the state 2 million kina. He said the case has caused him a lot of stress and hardship. However, he resumed duties today and thanked all who supported him.
Say that we have the best judicial system in the world. Talking about corruption, when we are talking about negative issues in Papua New Guinea, one of the shining lights in our country is the judiciary. Judiciary today proved that without fear or favor, without prejudice, they can make decisions like this.
Australian tourists have recently raised concerns over extra fees being charged at 2 Kokoda Trek memorials. An Australian Department of Foreign Affairs spokesman said both PNG and Australian governments had sorted out the issue and landowners had agreed to drop charges. However, fences remain at Isurava with up to 50 kina demanded for access. Local landowner Martin Liver told Sydney Morning Herald that the Australian and PNG governments have done nothing for his village for 12 years. He said the money which is charged to trekkers to access the war memorial at Isurava goes towards the village. Papua New Guinea's Kokoda Trek Authority is a government-commissioned body tasked to manage and maintain the Kokoda Trek for tourists, as well as improve and ensure the well-being of communities living along the trek. The authority receives over 300 kina per trekker, a percentage of which is meant for special community projects. Turning overseas now, US President Barack Obama made history at the weekend when he visited his father's home country of Kenya. He also proudly declared himself as the first Kenyan American to be the President of the United States, as well as being the first American president to go to Kenya. The president also spoke to Kenyans on terrorism, discrimination and corruption in the midst of the country's expected growth of around 6% this year. MTV's Alana Leah has this report.
As well as announcing plans to launch direct flights between Kenya and the United States, the US president also danced with a Kenyan pop star, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, and other officials at a State House dinner. But on a more serious note, he unveiled initiatives countering extremist group Al-Shabaab in bordering Somalia.
We also discussed broader efforts to counter violent extremism here in Kenya and around the world. Efforts that are advanced when there is rule of law, respect for human rights, a space for civil society and peaceful dissent, and when we welcome all communities as our partners.
In the midst of Kenya's progressive growth rate, powered by a robust agriculture and tourism sector, Obama urged a zero-tolerance stance against corruption, offering counsel and technical assistance to increase transparency and accountability, as well as strengthen anti-corruption institutions. Although the president acknowledged that the cultural differences between the United States and Kenya are too vast, he spoke out on Kenya's criminalization of homosexuality, which warrants a jail sentence for up to 14 years.
Similarly, with respect to the rights of gays and lesbians, I've been consistent all across Africa on this. I believe in the principle of treating people equally under the law, and that they are deserving of equal protection under the law, and that the state should not discriminate against people based on their sexual orientation.
President Obama is now on the second leg of his African tour, traveling to Ethiopia today to address the 54-member African Union in the Ethiopian capital of Addis Ababa. Alana Lay, EMTV World News.
Well, we have True Guy Sports. That's coming up next, and we'll give you all the details when we come back. Stay with us.
True Guy Sports.
Welcome to True Guy Sports. Well, Team PNG athletes who participated in the 2015 Pacific Games will be given their incentives as promised by the government. The official sponsor of the Games is currently in the process of opening bank accounts for the medal-winning athletes.
Team PNG athletes who won a gold, silver or bronze medal will receive their incentives as promised by the government of Papua New Guinea. 20,000 kina for gold, 10,000 kina for silver and 5,000 kina for bronze medal winners. However, not only medal-winning athletes will receive the incentives, but all other athletes who participated as well will receive 2,500 kina.
The incentive program is very clear. It was there for those that won gold, silver and bronze of the 2015 Pacific Games, and the 2,500 kina to those athletes that participated in the Pacific Games but did not get a medal. MTASO.
The initial amount that was budgeted was 5.8 million kina for the estimated 92 gold medals. But due to the government wanting all other athletes who did not win medals to be given 2,500 kina each, an added 700,000 was included in the budget. Minister Chichenko wanted to make it clear that 80% of the athletes are unemployed, so the funding will be able to help them achieve their ambitions for the results they have produced for the country. Dion Kombang, National, EMTV Sports.
Well, volunteers from the 2015 Pacific Games want to be compensated for the work they put in to ensure the successful delivery of the Games here in Port Moresby. They are now calling on the government to recognise their efforts and want to be compensated accordingly.
We know that the name volunteer itself speaks for itself, that we are not going to get paid. But in the event where the games started until now, we used our own resources. We used our own money to buy flex card to communicate. We used our own bus fares to travel from our location, from our homes to the games, and we never got picked up. In fact, they told us that they were going to pick us and drop us off, but it didn't happen.
And when we went to GOC now at Telecom, they couldn't give us a proper explanation.
That's just our heart's cry right now to the government and also to GOC, that the voluntary job, some things that we did in the voluntary job was beyond that. I pretty much think, we should have been maybe paid, I guess, but yeah.
The volunteers made it known that they want to be recognized for their efforts in being a part in the delivery of the Pacific Games.
Basically, there's one simple question we're asking, if the government can come clear on this issue as to whether they will pay us some form of allowance or appreciation for the work we did. Apart from those who were paid, it won't look good if the volunteers and the technical officials are not paid any form of allowance. So that is our cry to the government of the day now, if they could come clear on this issue.
The Games Organizing Committee, in a statement, have made it very clear right from the start that the role of the volunteers were on a voluntary basis and they were not to be paid. Yesterday, the GOC hosted a thank you function for all the volunteers and technical officials who played a part in the Games. They were presented with certificates of appreciation and a medal for their role during the Pacific Games. Dion Kombang, National, EMTV Sports.
Let's hope that these volunteers get their pay in due course. Well, True Guy Sports continues after these short messages. Stay tuned.
True Guy Sports.
Good to have you back with True Guy Sports. The 2018 FIFA World Cup will be staged in Russia. It features 141 teams from around the world, including Oceania's 11 contenders. For the Oceania region, the road to Russia gets underway on the 31st of August 2015, when the first matches of the 2018 FIFA World Cup Russia and Oceania qualifying Stage 1 tournament kicks off in Tonga. EMTV Shen Saroya has more on this report.
In 2018, Russia will play host to the biggest sporting event on the planet, the FIFA World Cup. With 141 teams from across the globe, including 11 contenders from the Oceania region, there will be 850 matches taking place, lasting over 33 months, and the road to Russia will get underway on 31st of August. The Oceania qualifying Stage 1 tournament will kickstart in Tonga, which will see 11 nations start their campaign to Russia. American Samoa, Cook Islands, Samoa, and host Tonga are the 4 countries that will contest Stage 1, with winner progressing to Stage 2, where they will join the 7 remaining Oceania Members Association. It will be a round-robin competition. 8 teams have been drawn into groups of 4 teams, which will compete for the OFC Nations Cup, a one-off tournament in a yet-to-be-determined location in 2016. Papua New Guinea will be in Group A with the 2012 OFC Nations Cup champions Tahiti and runners-up New Caledonia, as well as the preliminary round winners. Group B will feature the regional heavyweights New Zealand, Solomon Islands, Fiji and Vanuatu. From here, 3 teams from each pool will advance through to Stage 3, where the 6 teams will be placed into 2 groups of 3 teams. The sides will compete in round-robin, home and away battle to top their group. The 2 group winners will advance to a single home and away series. The regional winner earns the right to face the 5th place South American side in the 2-legged Intercontinental Playoff in November 2017 for a place to Russia 2018. Shane Saroya, National, EMTV Sports.
True Guy Sports ends on that note. The weather details coming up after these short messages. Stay tuned for that.
Sports. True Guy Sports.
Taking a quick look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in southern region, mostly fine expected in Port Moresby and Karama. In Momase, fine weather expected in Madang, Wewak and Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands, thundery showers expected in Buka. And lastly, in the Islands region, all centres to look forward to cloudy weather. Well, that's been the news, sports and weather tonight. On behalf of the entire news crew, I'm Tokana Asavi Jr. Thanks for your company. You take care and stay safe. Good night.